2016-17 College Football Playoff National Championship game will be a rematch of last year's teams, as the two best teams in college football, the Clemson Tigers and the Alabama Crimson Tide, deserve to be playing for the trophy. Neither had a problem in the College Football Playoff semifinals, and now the race is on to prepare for the biggest game of the season. The linesmakers popped a line before Clemson's semifinal game ended, with the chosen number on Alabama at -7. We'll have to watch this number as game time approaches and limits go up, but it's safe to say that we're going to see an enormous betting handle. The Clemson Tigers dealt Ohio State arguably the worst loss in program history with a 31-0 domination of one of the most talented teams in the country. The Tigers enter this one at 7-7 against the spread and 7-6 to the under. That win pushed Dabo Swinney's squad to 13-1 straight up on the season, and sharp action was validated as Clemson closed a small 1-point underdog after sitting around a field goal for most of the bowl season. With Deshaun Watson in the pocket and the return of Mike Williams on the outside, everybody expected Clemson's offense to be even more explosive. That really was not the case, but that's not to say that the Tigers have a bad offense. In fact, it was quite the opposite, as Clemson racked up 39.5 points per game and over 500 yards of offense per contest. Watson has thrown some interceptions this season, but he's also thrown for nearly 4,200 yards and 38 touchdowns. His draft stock is not what it once was, but Watson is still a tremendous college football quarterback, and he has no shortage of weapons for this game. Wayne Gallman cracked the 1,000-yard mark despite having his carries limited in a few games this season. Mike Williams is a matchup nightmare for opposing defenses. At 6'4", he is fast and physical and has 90 catches for 1,267 yards and 10 touchdowns. As exciting and noteworthy as the Clemson offense is, it's actually the defense that truly stands out. Clemson spent most of the CFP semifinal against Ohio State in the backfield, and they're not too shabby in the back seven either. The job that Brent Venables has done to replace a laundry list of NFL draft picks is among the most impressive in the country. The Tigers allowed just 17.1 points per game and 307 yards of offense per contest. Clemson's defense gave up just 4.6 yards per play. Keep in mind that Clemson's opponents averaged 29.2 points per game and 402 yards per effort throughout the season, including an Ohio State team that scored 0 points. Clemson's defense gave up less than a touchdown plus PAT per first half this season. In this game, though, the Clemson defensive front will face the best offensive line that it has seen all season, and that's significant because Clemson was third in the country in sacks with 49 and second in tackles for a loss with 123. Both of those things were a key to the dominant performance against the porous Buckeyes offensive line. It's very hard for the Alabama Crimson Tide to go 10-4 against the spread, but that's exactly what Nick Saban's team did this season. It was hard to set lines high enough for the Crimson Tide, and they just kept covering numbers en route to 14-0. If this number closes below 10, it will be just the second time all season that Alabama was favored by just single digits. They won and covered against LSU in a 10-0 win as a touchdown plus extra point favorite. The Crimson Tide scored 45 points and racked up 473 yards in last year's national championship game. That was with Jake Coker at quarterback. Coker threw for 335 yards on just 16 completions. He was not a running threat. True freshman Jalen Hurts is far more explosive player than Coker, and he's running the Alabama offense in this one. Hurts did make some freshman mistakes this season, but has still completed 65% of his throws with a 22-9 touchdown interception ratio. Hurts also has 891 rushing yards and 12 touchdowns. Like Clemson, Alabama is loaded with skill position talent. Damian Harris topped 1,000 yards on just 140 carries, and Bo Scarborough is like trying to tackle a semi on the Autobahn. There are 3 legitimate pass catchers with Ardarius Stewart, Calvin Ridley, and tight end O.J. Howard. Alabama employed a ground and pound strategy with Derrick Henry in last year's game, as he ran 36 times for 158 yards and 3 touchdowns. This season, with a better playmaker at quarterback, it would seem that Clemson has a lot more to worry about. Don't put too much stock in the offensive performance that Clemson had against Ohio State. The 31-0 score and the 470 to 215-yard advantage look more impressive than they actually were. Clemson's offense hit a couple of big plays, but Deshaun Watson threw 2 bad interceptions, and the Tigers wore down the Buckeyes for a 4.3 yards per carry. Alabama's defense is as stout as they come. The Crimson Tide allowed 11.4 points per game this season to opponents that average more than 30. They gave up 244 yards per game and 3.9 yards per play. No, that's not yards per carry, that's yards per play. Alabama allowed just 2 yards per carry. If there is a weakness for Alabama, it may be against facing offenses that play with a lot of tempo, but even that's a stretch. Alabama was 2nd in sacks and 5th in tackles for a loss. Normally in games like this, we look for coaching advantages. Nick Saban is obviously the cream of the crop in that regard, but Lane Kiffin has 1 foot out the door for Florida Atlantic, and Jeremy Pruitt is a couple notches below Brent Venables. Dabo Swinney is a great recruiter that has become a great in-game coach as well. Swinney now owns 2 postseason wins over Urban Meyer, who is pretty much unanimously regarded as the best postseason coach in college football. It is outlandish to say that either team may have the coaching advantage. This game will be played in Tampa, Florida, so it's tough to see a discernible crowd edge. Neither team had a very tough time in the semifinals, so it's tough to find an edge in that respect as well. The line on the side seems pretty much on point for this game. Alabama has been far and away the top power-rated team throughout the season and has been one of the highest ever for professional handicappers. Clemson gained a ton of respect with a dominant win over Ohio State and may get some of the early action after being a heavily bet sharp side for the semifinal. Both numbers are very sharp, but the total may be the play here. These are 2 superstar Latin defenses going up against each other for the 2nd straight season. Keep in mind that last year's 45-40 thriller had 40 points in the 4th quarter. That game simply became a track meet. That outcome may influence some opinions on the total here, so it might be best to wait and see where the number goes. It is fair to say that Alabama has a massive upgrade at quarterback, but Clemson's familiarity with this setting and this matchup should lead to some adjustments from Venables. Our pick and prediction is to take under the total of 51.5 points. For our pick and prediction on this game and every other game this week, and a wealth of free stats and information, check out bangthebook.com.